think that's there, which is kind of why he looked a bit isolated and maybe a bit lacking at times. But also, you've got to say, when after the Magic Weekend game, I pointed out that I thought Wigan's creative players, the 1, 6, 7 and 9, probably had their best games of the season so far. Well, I think that was the case for Warrington in this game. The 1, 6, 7 and 9 were outstanding, and it was the opposite for Wigan. The 1, 6, 7 and 9 were pretty devoid of ideas, and probably because all of that was won up front. Hill and Westwood in the first 25 minutes were incredible, I thought.
Yeah. Sorry, I've just had a momentary interruption by a trampolinist. Yeah, I thought Darryl Clark was exceptional. He just carved you to shreds. Ratchford, I thought, had a very, very good game. Yeah, and everything else just came from those two, I think.
Yeah, they really did escape any moments of trouble, didn't they? And
Roberts had a very good game as well, I thought.
Yeah, his kicks were good. They were made better as well by Warrington players getting there and putting the Wigan catchers or the Wigan non-catchers under a lot of pressure, didn't they? I was impressed by all of that. Do you know what I would say? And people are going to think maybe I'm being a bit one-eyed with this and all of that kind of thing. But Warrington should have been, for the way they played, in terms of the way they dominated the game, they should have been much further ahead at half-time than 16-0, and they probably should have won the game by more than 23 points. But do you know what? As much as Warrington should have been much further ahead than 16 points to nil at half-time, they were actually pretty lucky to have got 16 points, given that Ben Murdoch-Masila, in my view, lost grip of the ball. So I thought you had to regather the ball if you lose grip of it when you've got possession. It's not a situation of grounding a loose ball. I thought it was different, but maybe I'm wrong. But to me, he lost grip of the ball and then grounded it.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you on that one.
And also, the Josh Charnley try, which was the killer for me. This was the clinching moment of the game, really, beyond the physical dominance that Warrington put on. The fact that they were able to put this set on, the fact that they tore our left side defence to absolute ribbons, that no one knew what each other was supposed to do or anything. Everyone on that left side, from Liam Farrell over, really read this play wrong for Charnley to get in. But they never should have had a 20-metre tap. Tom Davies knocks on, but Harvey Levett knocks it back onto the goalpost, and the video referee had a look at that because he was asked to, and said the 20-metre restart should be the thing. But I thought it should have been a 10-metre scrum, and then they wouldn't have probably had the impetus with less than a minute left to have got up the field. So for all their brilliance, that's why I'm saying Wigan's effort and determination wasn't really lacking in this game, because Wigan kept them out. For all of their brilliance and dominance, Wigan did keep them out to a certain extent here. So I do think that it doesn't make me as despondent when I think about those aspects of it, even though we were nilled and we didn't look like much in attack and we were physically bullied through the middle for most of the game. I do think it could have been a different matter there. Yeah,
no, I think you are right. Warrington could have scored a lot more and possibly should have scored a lot more given the amount of dominance they had.
And the stats, that when we get to those, will totally tell out the amount of dominance they had. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Warrington in saying what I was saying. I was saying it more as a compliment that Wigan did grit it out. They gave away a lot of goal line dropouts and those sorts of things. I can't remember what the goal line dropout count was 6 forced by Warrington to 1 forced by Wigan, so that tells you that. Obviously, Wigan never really had a good chance other than there was the no try for Oliver Gildart, wasn't there? And that was the only real time Wigan broke the line in the game.
Yeah, they didn't look like breaking the line, did they? Really?
No, we didn't. I think we were so tired from being physically outmatched and constantly chasing down quick dummy half play from Warrington that they were too tired to have sensible thinking when they got to the end of the other end of the field and got into attacking position. That's my personal kind of view on it. But you've got to credit Warrington. I thought the sin binning of Thomas Luluai was absolutely the right call. We don't want to see that sort of stuff, do we, at all?
Again, it was another one that could have been a lot worse had the attacking player not sort of realised what was coming and sort of prepared himself, I felt.
Yeah, I don't think on the Ben Garcia one, he the defendant, the player kind of properly jumped out of the way, didn't he, to minimise the contact on him. On this one, it wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good look, and I don't like seeing it. And I actually, part of me wishes he'd got a ban for it because I don't want to see those kind of tackles. And we didn't. It wasn't a game that was played like that either. It was a game that was played in pretty decent spirits. I was watching this in the pub with some friends of mine who. Cass, who we talk about a lot on the show, was there, but everyone else wasn't really bothered about rugby. And were kind of more interested in winding me and Cass up, which I don't appreciate at all.
Really?
But one of the lads was like, "Oh, it's a rivalry game, though, isn't it? So we're going to get a bit of biff, aren't we?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know." And up to that point, we didn't really get much in the way of biff. And
no.
But look, well done to Warrington is kind of like my last thought on it. They totally levelled the scales after what happened 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Stats then. 600 plus more metres at 1.4 metres per carry better average game for the Wire in this dominant showing. 1,755 total metres they made. Wigan made over 100 more tackles and missed more than twice as many as Wire. So for another week, it's a poor tackling performance from Wigan, which has crept in over the last 2 weeks. They also hurt themselves with a 6-7 penalty count and an 11-6 or 6-11 error count. So basically, made more mistakes as well as we're kind of physically outmatched there. So individually, Darryl Clark, we could have picked out a ton of players. We have the individual stats because it was in the League Express. We could have picked out a ton of players.
Screenshotted it, actually. It was on, not screenshotted it, took a photo of the TV if I remembered in time.
Well, we could have picked out a ton of people for the Wire in this one, but Darryl Clark, 41 tackles and 155 metres went both ways. Chris Hill, 182 metres, 3 successful offloads. Benny Westwood, 150 metres, and Bryson Goodwin, 157 metres, 3 clean breaks. They're the ones I've picked out from that list. Liam Farrell for Wigan, 45 tackles and 101 metres made. So again, working hard, even though he didn't actually execute very much of what he did particularly brilliantly. George Williams, 107 metres, 4 successful offloads. That kind of goes into the individuality I spoke of. John Bateman got a bit of praise. Certainly deserves it. In defence, he was massive and he made 106 metres and 3 successful offloads as well. And Tom Davies worked really hard, as he always does, 130 metres. Okay, on to Sunday's game then. Are you ready for reliving Sunday's game? It was St Helens 25, Hull FC 22. After it being 23-12 at half-time to the Saints, in front of 8,928, Ben Thaler was the referee. And do you want to start us with Brian's fan view?
Yep, Brian Davies said, superb game, best of the weekend by far. Individual errors, including the sin bins, cost FC. Thought Johnny Lomax was great again, looking good for England.
Dibs at Dibs XIII 13. Farcical. When the penalty depends on what colour your shirt is. Like Rad pointed out, we get penalised for a head high, and then a couple of minutes later the same happens to Hakim Maludi and nothing. And that was just one incident. Proud of my team. Reffing standards, thumbs down.
St David says, Saints escaped this by the skin of their teeth. Started like a house on fire, but FC hung in and then got their noses ahead. First 2 sin bins, both correct, changed the game, with Saints taking full advantage and then hanging on in a tough second half. Who knows what would have happened if Hull had kept 13 on the field. Kelly tried to earn one back with pathetic play acting, but Thaler wasn't fooled. On to the semis.
Tim G Radio said, what a fab game as a neutral. I was almost willing FC at the end. That's from a Hull KR fan. FC showed some real resilience, especially with men in the bin. Saints showed a vulnerability and will be interesting to see if others can exploit it in the coming weeks. Oh, and get rid of Robbie Hunter-Paul wandering around the pitch. Such a distraction.
Indeed. And then the last review comes from Joshua's granddad, who says, you don't give it up without a fight, and we gave it everything. Ben Barber taken care of easily, but couldn't handle ref/video ref. Lermax playing dead to get Massey a yellow. Washbrook dickhead knee cost us dearly. Good to see Albert and Loss back. Time to focus on the fort and Old Trafford.
Yeah, do you want to... I mean, oftentimes you and Joshua's granddad have very similar views on the game, but do you want to add your thoughts onto this one? I mean, you must be proud, at the very least, of the effort that your guys put in that, especially in that second half. It made for a thrilling game for the neutral, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, one thing, I don't know how it came across on TV, but it was so hot. It was absolutely roasting, and that was just standing in the stands. The sun was so intense. I dread to think what it was like out on the pitch.
You do really get the sun in that stand at Saints. I've experienced that before, where just standing there I've been sweating, sort of thing.
Yeah, in the second half we tried to find some shade, and it meant we ended up standing about 5 steps from the back of the stand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think...
So it came across mostly at the very end of the game with all the players on the floor, like, drained physically and emotionally from what was a great encounter.
Yeah. So the sin binnings, I think Danny Houghton's was right by the letter of how crusher tackles are. But when players are backing into you, it's a very difficult position, isn't it?
I don't think he I think when Minicello came in, it spun Danny Richardson round rather than Danny Richardson backing in. I don't think Danny Richardson was trying to lever into Danny Houghton, but I don't think Danny Houghton was fully responsible, which is kind of the main point, I think, there, isn't it? I don't think he was fully responsible for the tackle going wrong, but it was the right call to put him in.
And additionally, there was a third player that came in to lend weight, which then sort of caused Houghton to exert the pressure in the wrong way.
It exacerbated the fact that Houghton couldn't find space for Richardson's head at the point where he might normally have looked for finding space. Yeah, I agree with that, yeah.
So I think it was correct, but harsh at the same time, if that makes sense.
It's one that you feel bad being on the end of, but you know it's the right call. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, yeah.
Danny Washbrook was just stupid. He got sin-binned against Featherstone for that in the last round of the Cup for sort of half-kneeing someone, not even doing a proper job of it.
It was almost laughable, the level of... Like, they've described it on the write-up because they've not given him a ban, have they, on the RFL disciplinary side? They've described it as just pure petulance, basically.
Yeah, well, it was like the Liam Watts headbutt against Warrington where he got sent off. Like, if you're going to do it properly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was Jordan Lane, weren't it, who kind of made the tackle and kind of made sure at the top of his head had kind of got a bit up in LMS's head, and LMS on as a result of that kind of had a bit of a slap out, didn't he, at the back of Jordan Lane.
It was Brad Fash, not Jordan Lane.
I apologise. Yeah. I apologise, Brad Fash. And so those two had kind of already aggravated a situation. The first offence was Brad Fash, and then probably he just would have had a talking to the both of them. But all of that almost kind of just fell aside when Danny Washbrook is the most experienced player on the pitch as well. In a Hull FC shirt.
Really, we're down to 12 men. You've got to look to your experienced players to stand up and, lead, and he didn't.
No, exactly. I can totally get your frustration. And it did change things around because you were behind and then showed some really good stuff to get. I mean, Scott Taylor, I don't know how fit he was or wasn't, but he was fantastic for your team in this game.
But one thing, I must credit Jamie Shaw. The second he realised Danny Washbrook was being sin-binned, he grabbed the players and he explained to them exactly where he wanted them to be on the pitch. And at every tackle, he was stood there screaming at players to move into different positions. And we conceded, I think, 10 points whilst we had 2 men down, which against Saints, I think, is phenomenal.
I think it was 12 points. Yeah, they converted both the tries in that spell. But yeah, you're right. And both the tries were forced out wide. Danny Richardson had to make some cracking conversions.
Yeah.
Sorry, the first one was right out wide. I think Mark Percival managed to arrow his run inside, actually.